we want to welcome you ladies to today's session. I am Barbara Brooks, the co-founder of Second Act Women. And today's session is all about learning how to boost your bottom line, find new passive income, or just discover what type of store you can open up online, whether it's Etsy, whether it's Amazon, or hello, your own website. So today's session is how to launch your own e-commerce store powered by none other than Second Act Women with one of our own Second Act Insider members, Angie Viehman with Clutch Businesses. We are so excited to have you. But before we get started, we always love to make sure to motivate, to inspire, to reassure, to reaffirm, and help you realize the power of who you are at the number that you are sitting at. And so we love this quote from Sally Field, who is now 50 years young. We're happy to have you here today. And again, I've gathered strength behind my years. I own them. I've earned them. I've deserved them. And I have every right to them. And I'm sure you have so many other things that you can say, but we want you to, again, love the number that you're sitting at, the experience, the wisdom, and all that comes with being, for me, 54, for Lupe, a powerful 47, and for those of you that sitting at the chapters, you are. So we are Second Act Women, and here is who we are at a glance. We're a social enterprise company, one of the largest in the United States that's focused singularly on women over 40 and 50 plus. We're a virtual and IRL community that also offers a private membership as well. But our goal, our three key pillars, is built on development programs, online tools, and monthly meetups to help you, the powerful woman that you are over 40 and 50 plus, as we like to say, Gen X boomers, reimagine and every other reword that goes with who you are today, what's possible in business, career, and in your life, and act on it. And do it. And that is the reason why we host these types of events, that whether they're focused on business, career, or life, it's about the intersection of all of them and how powerful we are, and so many things that we can look forward to in life in all three of those areas. We do want to tell you, I'm going to bring my work wife on for a moment to tell you about today's session at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time. It's called Write an About Me page that grows your business. And we too just learned ourselves, Lupe, right, that is one of the second most visited pages. Lupe, you want to tell them about this free workshop happening a little later today?
Yeah, yes, we're going to be hosting Colleen Watson. She is a novelist and a professional copywriter. And just like Barb said, the About Me page is actually the second most visited page that people go after visiting your homepage. And yes, visuals are important, but once you attract them with the visuals, how do you keep people there? On average, people spend anywhere between 10 and 15 seconds on a page and then determine if they want to continue to engage. So what you write on it is super important. So Colleen is going to be showing you the 5 easy sentence Pixar method that she's adopted from her novel writing on how you can tell your story in a quick, succinct, and hopefully capturing way that then entices people to continue reading. It is free. I've dropped the registration link into the chat. So if you get a chance, join us tonight. We'd love to have you.
We would love to have you. There's over 64 people that have registered for that event tonight. So without further ado, we want to welcome to the stage Angie Viehman with ClutchBusinesses.com. We are thrilled to have her teach you more than a little, a lot about opening your e-store. And by the way, we too have just hired her. We're keeping the money within the ecosystem, ladies. We have hired her to do that, this exact thing that she's teaching you today to do for us, for Second Act Women. So we welcome Angie Viehman.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks. And I'm so excited to see everybody here. And I'm super excited to be taking some steps towards your e-commerce business together today. And I want to say first and foremost that what we'll go over today is you don't have to have any experience. So Sherry, I love that you're just exploring, right? You can already see all of the diversity in what people are coming to the table with. So you don't have to have any background, any experience in e-commerce to stick with us today and get something out of it. Now, the other thing that I'll say before we get too far is I dropped basically like a handout or a packet all the way at the top of the chat. So it should be, you should be able to see a PDF there. And if you want to click on that, that just gives us the information that we're going to be using today in a really cute little package, I guess. But let us know if you have any trouble with that. Okay, let me share my screen. All right. Okay, so we're here to talk ecom today. So I am just going to introduce myself quick. I know that Barb did a little bit too, but I'm Angie Viehman with Clutch Businesses. And really what I do is I help women move from hustle to flow by automating and streamlining their businesses so that they have more time to spread their special sauce around and find themselves spending less time on the busy work in their business. And you might be asking then, why am I teaching a workshop about e-commerce? And really, I've worked for some of the biggest e-retailers in the country. And ultimately, I see e-commerce as an avenue for women to create the lives that they've always dreamed of. So to make the money that they really deserve, to create their own hours and to have time for family, friends, and even themselves. And what I've seen is that a lot of women dream of having their own store, but they run into constraints with the tech, the time, and the funding that it takes to start a store, to build a store. So I used my experience both in e-commerce and in business automations to create a program that helps women launch their stores in less than a day so that they can find financial independence, creative satisfaction, and schedule flexibility with an e-commerce store. So what we're going to go over today is, and I'll make a note too, that we are going to have plenty of time at the end for questions. So as things come up, make sure and jot those down or type them in the chat, and we'll make sure to get to those at the end. Okay, so we're going to be talking about what makes an e-commerce store a great standalone business or an add-on business or an add-on to an existing business. And then we'll also look at the different types of e-commerce businesses that you can have or stores that you can have, and the different types of business models that exist within e-commerce. And then we'll also walk through what you need in order to start an e-commerce business. So basically a checklist of sorts. And then once we've got kind of all the basics down, that foundation laid, we're going to do a couple of activities. And one is going to help you actually identify the right platform to use for your e-commerce business, which is one of the most important decisions that you can make. And then we'll also look at finding profitable products for your store so that you can make money and create demand for what you're offering. Okay, now if you're here, I'm guessing that you're somewhere that looks a little bit like this. You have a great idea, or maybe you have for a while, but you don't quite have everything in place to bring your store to fruition. So there is a lot that has to happen to get there, to get your store live and active and generating sales. So I found that it's really helpful to know your why, to keep the momentum going as you start to tackle everything on your list and build your beautiful e-commerce store. So I'm curious what everybody's why is. So if you are willing, type your chat or type your why in the chat right now. And that way we can all keep it on the top of our minds as we walk through everything that we're going to talk about today. But then you also have that to keep at the forefront when things start to get hard outside of this workshop, when you're working through things on your own. Okay, so I'm also going to assume that you have at least some understanding of what possibilities exist in e-commerce. So I'm going to keep this first part kind of brief. But what makes an e-commerce store a really good business is that the startup costs can be relatively low. So you could literally start a successful store, a really successful store for just $30 if you wanted to. You can also spend a lot more money to do it, but you can do it for $30. And then also, depending on the model that you select, the day-to-day operations can be pretty easy. So this is where you start to kind of claw back some of that time that you might be spending. So some stores are set up so that the owners are never even touching the product that they're selling. And then the other thing about e-commerce is that it's scalable. So you can start out small. You can add products and services as you go. You don't have to do that, have everything at once or right from the beginning. And then what that allows you to do is to start out with very little capital. And you can use your revenue then to fund your growth rather than your bank account. So let's look at what your business could look like. So you could, the bottom line is, and we've just heard from, a couple of people already that have a wide range of businesses that they're considering. So it could look a lot of different ways. So you could set it up as direct to consumer. You could set it up as dropship, or you could even sell wholesale or do private label or subscriptions. And you can also sell a variety of products. So you can sell physical or digital products, and you can even sell services on your e-commerce store or on your e-commerce site. And none of these are mutually exclusive. So you can sell direct to consumer and you can sell wholesale. You can sell physical products and you can sell services all on the same site. So let's talk about, I guess I'm curious if these terms, direct to consumer, white label, private label, drop shipping, are those familiar to everybody? For the most part? No? Okay, great. Thank you. So let's just talk through some of them because it is important to know kind of the breadth of possibilities. So direct to consumer means that you make a product or service and you sell it directly to customers either through your site or through marketplaces like Amazon or Etsy or anything like that. An example of this is if anybody wants to go to Vogel, so it's VOGELLE.com. This is an example of direct to consumer. So this company was started by a recent CU graduate. And I promise I am not getting paid by her, but she is a really incredible person. So she studied abroad in Italy. She met a handbag manufacturer just kind of by chance. And she designed an awesome handbag, a beautiful handbag for them to make. And now she has an online store where she sells them. And you can go and buy one from her right now. And then with private label, this means that you either design and build a product for others to sell where they can put their own brand on it, right? So it's not your brand, or you can buy a product that somebody else designed and built, but you put your logo or your brand on it. So you eliminate kind of all the research, all the R&D that needs to happen, and you still have a really great product that you can sell to your customers. And then drop shipping is where you will likely sell a product that somebody else created and produces. You list it on your site, a customer orders it, so once that customer order comes in, you place an order with the supplier or the manufacturer, and they send it directly to the customer for you. So you never even touch the product. And what is also really great about drop shipping is first, because you're not shipping it to them, you don't have to worry about, having pickers and packers. So people packaging product and sending it out. You don't have to have a warehouse to store product. And the thing that I love about it is basically a cash in, cash out business. So the customer pays you and you use that money. So the customer is financing your business essentially. So you're not buying anything until a customer buys it, which is awesome. So that's a great way to start out. And then, like I said, build that revenue and use that revenue to fund your growth. And then wholesale is another place where you can be a buyer or you can be a seller. So you're either selling branded products in bulk to retailers, or you as the retailer are buying branded products in bulk and selling them to customers. So this is more of a B2B model, where the other ones are more B2C. And then subscriptions, those can be made up of products, your own products. They can be made up of private label products or even wholesale products. So Stitch Fix or Daily Look are subscription companies that you might be familiar with, or have maybe even signed up for yourself. Okay, so that's just a rough overview of what all of those are. I mean, obviously, there are more complexities, but that gives you, kind of a general idea of what you can do with these stores. Okay, so let's talk about what you need to start. So the first thing is you need a platform. So you need a way for customers to see and buy the products that you're selling. So an e-commerce platform is basically like a beefed up website. So it has functionality on the back end to help you manage customer orders, to help you manage your inventory. I mean, really just helps you run your business. So you might have heard of Shopify or WooCommerce or even Magento. So those are all e-commerce platforms and pretty popular ones. Okay, so the other thing that you need is you need products to sell and you need packaging to ship customer orders in. So we're going to go over the products in more detail a little bit later, but the packaging is actually a really important thing to get right. So it can further your brand if you want it to, so that customers are, super excited and totally light up when their package arrives. And a couple of things that come to mind for me when I think about this are Apple products. So I absolutely love getting something from Apple. I don't get to do it very often, but I don't end up, when I buy something from them, I don't end up with a pile of trash that has to be hauled out to the garbage. The boxes are super clean and white, and they're really minimalist. They don't have a lot of fluff in them. There's not a lot, I don't have to put anything together really when it comes. So it makes me feel like I've made a really good decision. Like I've made a really good purchase decision when I buy something from them. Another thing that comes to mind is maybe, you've gotten your second act tee in the mail and you loved the personalization that came along with that, right? Like they put a lot of energy and a lot of time into making that a really special experience for you. And the other thing that I think of is Amazon. I mean, they have trained us to be able to see an Amazon package on the porch of somebody, a block down the street, right? Because of that black and blue branded tape that they put over the seams. It doesn't matter the size, it doesn't matter what's inside. It's from Amazon because of that black and blue branded tape. So all of that is really meaningful when you're creating your brand. And another thing to consider with your packaging is that packaging can also play a role in how much money you make. So if your products are breaking on the way to your customers, so they're not packaged safely, not only are your customers going to be really unhappy, but you're going to be spending a lot more money than you should to resend their orders. So basically, your shipping, your packaging, and your product costs double if you have to replace orders for customers. And we'll look a little bit later and see just how much the actual shipping costs play into your total product costs. It's pretty significant. Okay, so you also need a payment processor. So this is how you're going to collect payments from customers. And something to keep in mind with this is that making payments as easy as possible is key to getting sales. So a lot of online retailers are even offering payment plans or one-touch payments like Apple and Google Pay, so that it is even easier for you to say yes to buy that from them, right? And it's so important that there are a lot of companies coming into the marketplace that offer add-on software to improve just the customer checkout experience. So you want it to be as seamless as possible. And then you also need to dazzle your customers so that they keep coming back. So you want your site to be easy to navigate. You want the order process to be simple. And you want to make sure that their order is arriving on time, or their orders are arriving on time and in perfect condition. So these are all ways to make customers raving fans of yours. And then we talked a little bit about this already, but your logistics have to be well oiled. So unfortunately, customers want everything like yesterday. So unless they're ordering a custom product, and even then it's going to be a little dicey, but it's going to be really hard to explain why it takes a week for you to put something in the mail, or why their order is going to arrive later than you said it would. So you need a really tight process in place to get orders out as soon as possible. And you need reliable carriers so that packages aren't delayed. And I'll say that all of this is, getting easier as e-commerce is getting more or bigger and bigger, I guess. So, I think had we been having this conversation 10 years ago, we'd have to really dig into each of these. But there are a lot of resources out there that make a lot of this really a lot easier and a lot more reliable. Okay, so you also need great customers. And I think of having great customers as being tied to having great marketing. So you want to find your keywords. You want to have strong and clear product categories on your site, because that impacts your SEO standing. You want really great images of your products. You want both lifestyle images so that you can really show the transformation that they'll experience with your product. And you also want photos of the product details. And then you also need really great descriptions, because they're not going to have the chance to touch and feel the product before they buy it. And all of this serves two purposes. So the first is, by painting a really compelling picture, you're going to convert more sales. It's going to be hard to say no. They're going to want to buy it. And the second thing is, if they are clear on what they're getting, you're going to reduce customer returns, which can be really, really costly to an online business. Now, this doesn't play as much of a role in, if you're working with digital products, but it definitely plays a role if you are working with physical products. Okay, so your product and your brand are very important, but selecting the right platform is one of the most important things for an e-commerce business. So without one that supports your business, your products and your brand are going to be lost to your customers. So let's take some time to figure out what the right one is for you. So we've got this Google Doc, I guess it's the PDF that you guys got. Does everybody see this worksheet? Yeah, okay. So you can click on just this button here, download workshop, and that's going to take you to a Google Doc. And it'll ask you to make a copy first. And so go ahead and do that. And that just allows it to, this is yours to keep. You can use this forever, but it allows, my answers can't be seen by you, which means that my stuff isn't going to impact yours. Okay, does anybody having any issues opening that up? Okay, well, let's talk through some of this. So basically, these are all of the things that you'll want to consider when you're looking for your platform. So the first is, what's your online sales model? And we'll give you some time to work on this, but I just want to talk through each of these just so that everybody knows I'm not leaving you in the lurch and having you have to figure it out on your own. But so your online sales model, that's what we talked about in terms of direct to consumer, white label or private label. And each of these, you can select more than one. So like we talked about, none of these are mutually exclusive. If you want to sell digital products and physical products, you can. And then, so that's the next question is, what products do you sell? So are you going to sell digital? Are you going to sell physical? Are you going to focus on services? And then these next ones, so do you currently accept payments? So if you are adding this onto an existing business, or thinking about adding this onto an existing business, it might be helpful for you to keep the same payment processor. And some of the platforms work with Stripe, but don't work with Square. Or some of them work with PayPal, but not, I guess I'm totally drawing a blank on it, the other one. Well, it doesn't matter. but some of them work better with others than they don't, I guess. And it's not necessarily make or break it. I mean, right now in your business, you might be using more than one payment processor anyways. So I don't think that should be the deciding factor for you, but it is something to keep in mind just to simplify things if you can. And then another thing to consider is if you currently have a website. So again, you don't have to go this direction, but a lot of the website hosting companies have either an e-commerce component already built into what you have, or they have an add-on. So like Squarespace is a good example. If you have a Squarespace site, they have an e-commerce add-on so it's not included, so you don't necessarily save money, but for $30 a month more, you can house all of your stuff in one place. And again, it doesn't have to be that way, but sometimes that simplification can make a big difference. Okay, and then another thing to consider is, where do you plan to sell your products? So are you going to focus on selling just on your website? Or are you looking to get into the Amazon world a little bit? Or maybe you want to focus just on social media, so selling on Facebook, Instagram, things like that. So all of that, again, is going to play a role because some of the platforms support those things better than others. And then this is actually an important one too. Well, I guess all of these are important, right? But if you're going to be working with a developer, or if you're going to be doing it mostly on your own, that doesn't mean solely on your own. But there are some platforms that are super robust. I mean, they are basically their own person, right? They can do so much to support your business, but they can only do that if you know a ton of coding and a ton, like if you can customize it completely, right? And that requires a developer, unless that's your background. And that same platform, as much as it can do, will not be able to do any of that without that customization. So if you are planning to do it on your own, something that sounds so bright and shiny can be a disaster to your business. And I say that too with the thought in mind that there are a ton of DIY platforms that are so strong. They'll run your business just as well as those other, the kind of what seem like more robust platforms. So it's, I think there's so many businesses, actually, like $1 million, $1 billion e-commerce businesses that are running on Shopify. So you can do a lot. You can still build a really strong business with a DIY platform. Okay, and then how many products will you plan on selling? Now, you don't have to know this, but there are some platforms that charge based on the number of products that you're going to sell. So if you have, 5 products on your site, or 20, or you're planning to do like 500, they are going to charge you based on how many products you have on, listed on your site. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then along those lines, how many users are you going to need? So again, some of the platforms charge based on the number of users. So is it just going to be you to start? Are you the only one that's going to need the ability to log into this platform? Or are you going to have somebody that is managing your customer service for you? Or somebody that is managing the shipping and fulfillment of the orders? So those are all people that will need access to the platform. And then if you currently have a POS system, so a point of sale system, so if you have a brick and mortar store or a brick and mortar business right now, there are some of the POS systems that you would use in that case also offer e-commerce add-ons. So again, this is an opportunity to simplify the initial startup and to simplify how those two systems are talking to each other. So if you have all of that already loaded into a system and can just click a button and say, okay, now I want to offer this online, that's way easier than having to build out a whole nother thing and make sure that they're talking to each other so that your inventory is accurate and all of those types of things. Okay, now these last 3 are a little bit nitpicky, but they are, helpful to consider. So if you know that you will need an abandoned cart right away, there are some platforms that offer it and there are some platforms that don't. An abandoned cart is, so this is where somebody goes to your site, they put something in their cart, and then they never buy it. So with an abandoned cart feature, you have the opportunity to reach back out to that customer and say, and you usually get to choose what, what the duration is. Like, do you want to check back in with them in an hour, or do you want to give them a couple of days? And you can just send a reminder, or you also have the option to offer them a discount, or provide some other thing that is going to incentivize them to finalize that purchase. So it's a really effective way to increase your conversions, your sales conversions. Okay, and then also just if you will need the ability to sell subscriptions, if you know that right off the bat, that's great. Because again, some platforms support that and some platforms don't. This is not, this is always something that you can add on if you don't know, or if you're not sure that you want to do that right away. Okay, and then the final thing is, will you need a point of sale system? So if you're going to start out online, but you know that you are going to be doing some farmers markets or some makers markets, something like that, where you're going to need to do some in-person sales with people. There are platforms, online focused platforms, that offer that, and it just makes that transition a lot easier. So let's give you a couple of minutes here. Let's do 5 minutes for you to go through this worksheet. And basically, you just want to click the box next to your answer. And then once each question is answered, so every question on here, and again, you might not know some of this stuff, and that's okay. You can just put no, I don't know right now, or whatever. But once you have all of the questions answered, down at the bottom, so where you see that blue bar right now, there will 3 options will pop up there for the platform that is, will be best suited for your type of business. So I'm going to put some time on the clock. So let's take 5 minutes and do that now, and then we'll come back and talk about it. And I am not going anywhere. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask. Does that sound good? Okay. It's so quiet. How's it going for everybody? Yeah? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, how did anybody find anything that was, I guess, surprising or interesting after doing that? Would be willing to share? No? Okay. So basically now you've got a list and the recommendations, so the three things that popped up at the bottom, those are my suggestions, but they may not, they may not feel right to you. And so what I'll say then is that the worksheet that you've got, that you filled out, each of those questions, we will represent a category of features that you can look for on your own to find a platform that might make more sense. So, if you don't go with one of the three that I've suggested, you do have, kind of like a tool belt to go and search for something else. Now, um, the three that you've got, basically what you can do now is go and just Google them and start to dig around a little bit and look and see which one feels right. And the things that you can look for are the price and the features. So most of the platforms are going to charge a monthly fee. But one thing to watch out for is that some will charge a monthly fee in addition to a transaction fee. And that transaction fee is usually in addition to the fees that you're already paying your payment processor. So a low $30 monthly fee could quickly become several $100s. And $30, depending on where you're, I guess, depending on what you're doing, $30 is probably about where you'll start with your platform to begin. And, as you grow, obviously that'll change and you'll want more features and things like that. But that's probably a good place to shoot for. Okay, so let's talk about products. So I guess I'm curious, how many of you already know what products you want to sell? And if anybody is willing, we've heard from a few folks already. Is anybody else willing to share?
We are going to, and we'll show an example afterwards. We're doing workbooks, worksheets, done for you, templates and things like that for as part of every workshop that Lupe and I will be leading. Those are some of the things that we're going to be selling.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's a way, what I love about that too, is it's a way for the workshop to live on, right? obviously the actual event is really great and provides a lot of value to people, and provides a revenue source for the business. But it also allows you to, you put a lot of work into this stuff, right? So any product, anything that you're selling, anything that you're creating for your clients or your audience, you put a lot of work into it. So to be able to continue to draw income and revenue from that is awesome. Okay, cool. Great. Okay, so let's talk about some things to look for when you're choosing your products. So really what you want is you want to make sure that there's going to be a demand for it, or that your product is filling a need for your customers. So some things to look for when you're adding products to your assortment are, does it solve a problem? So I always think about the work from home, or the transition to working from home right now. So there is a huge problem. People are used to working at an office and having all of these things, all of these resources, a desk, a chair, a printer, right? A ring light. Well, I guess we didn't really need ring lights at the office, but all of those things are now really in, like, people need them, and it is a problem if they don't have them. So things like that. You can also focus on hobbies. So another thing, another pandemic example, I guess, is last year, outdoor activities, camping, hiking, biking, all of that kind of stuff blew up. I mean, people were already interested in them, but when they're sitting at their house and they cannot, they can't travel, or they can travel, but just a short distance, and they absolutely need to get out of their house, they turn to camping, they turn to biking. And so all the stores sold out of all of that type of equipment, right? So there was a big demand for that. You can also look at your passions. So if you love the product, the way that you talk about it is going to make it so hard to say no to, because your customers are going to be able to feel that passion, right? You can also look to your experience or your background for inspiration on products to sell, products to offer. You can also look to what's trending right now. So another pandemic thing, because the pandemic is totally influencing e-commerce, but masks. So, I mean, the two that we've already talked about, outdoor equipment and work from home equipment, and masks, those are all trending right now. They're all popular. Clothing is shifting from super professional to, professional light and cozy. And I can sit in front of a computer and look pretty good wearing this, but I'm still comfortable. All of those types of things, fit into that kind of trend category. You can also, this is kind of one of my favorite little hacks, is that you can look at existing product reviews to see what people are asking for or what they're not getting from existing products in the marketplace. I'm going to stay with the camping theme here, because clearly I was obsessed with that when I was thinking about this, but I have always wondered why sleeping bags don't come with a built-in pillow. So that material, that sleeping bag material, is so freaking slippery that I'm like resting my head and now I'm on the ground, right? So if that pillow was built in, it would like be the coziest night's sleep ever, right? So those are things that you can start to look for in product reviews, and product reviews on any site, but Amazon is a great place to look. Any sites that you frequent regularly, just I guess leafing through and seeing what people are asking for is a great place to look. You can also look at keyword searches. So see what people are looking for, see what people are typing in the chat. They're going to need a product, or they might need a product to support that, right? And then this isn't my favorite, but it is something that you can do. You can look at what other people are selling. So what is Amazon featuring on their main page? What's Target featuring on their main page? What products have a lot of reviews? So if there's a lot of reviews, a lot of people are buying it, because most people don't leave reviews, right? So those are good places to look. And I say that this isn't my favorite one, mainly because if they're already featuring them, if they're already listed, if they're already selling, you've lost a little bit of time there, right? Because you're not going to instantly be able to add it to your site. So there's going to be a little bit of time there, and you might be missing it. But if you kind of pair that with what aren't people getting from what's already out there, you might find a winner, right? So then the other thing that I would recommend is that once you've settled on some ideas, once you've settled on some things, test them. So if it's a totally new product to you, just buy a few to start. And this is the case if you are doing physical, selling physical things, and you are going to be holding inventory. So you're not going the drop shipping route. You're going to pay a little bit more by buying a smaller amount, but at least you're not going to end up with a bunch of stuff that you can't sell. So that is something that plagues people who sell physical inventory. There are always going to be things that sell really well, and there are always going to be things that don't sell so well. That's just a given. And you can use the 80-20 rule there, because it will almost always play out. And that's okay if you know and expect that. And there are ways also to kind of soften the blow, because you will be surprised at what will sell and what doesn't sell. And then if it turns out to be a good seller, you know that your profit margin is going to get better, because you'll be able to buy more the next time, and you'll be buying more frequently. And all of those things impact the unit costs that you'll be paying for your product. Okay, so let's dive into the next activity. So let's pull up, let's see, I'm gonna pull it up here. So in the packet, there should be a page that has 3 circles on it. So 3 blue circles. So this is basically taking kind of what we've already talked about. So what I think would be helpful is to just to start, take a few minutes to write down some of your hobbies, write down some of your experience, and then write down some of your passions. So let's just take a couple of minutes to do that. And you can do it actually right in the worksheet, or you can print it out and do it, but you can, just type something in there. So yeah, let's take just a couple of minutes to do that, and then we'll come back and keep going with it. Okay, so let's see. Is everybody Everybody good to move on? I wanted to make it kind of rapid fire so that we weren't like thinking about it too much. But did everybody get something written down? Okay, great. So let's then just take a couple more minutes to take a step back. Now that you've written something down, take a step back and see if there are any commonalities you see between these three. So is there anything that pops out, that is a commonality between your hobbies, your experience, and your passions? Or maybe as you're looking through it, kind of again stepping away, if there's a product that pops out at you, or another kind of idea. So it doesn't have to be a fusion of those three things, but if there's something that kind of lifts off the page, that you think would make for a cool product, that's kind of what we're looking for here. So just take a couple of minutes to do that. Okay. So did anybody find anything that popped out with this? Sherry, did you find anything?
I did find there's some overlap.
Really?
Yeah, especially things that I have experience with. And then also some things that my husband's passionate about as well. I think that's something we could team up on as well.
That's awesome. That's really great. Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing to think about too, is, who you can partner with, but also like what are other people in your life interested in, right? Because I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily something that you're interested in. You're not going to be your only customer. So there are people in the world that we can, or people in our world that we can draw from too. That's great. Are you feeling a little more inspired, or yeah? Good.
Yeah, I am.
Good.
So I definitely see some possibilities there.
Cool. That's awesome. That's really great.
And also what I saw, Angie, was really cool is I actually took your passions and I divided them between personal passions and like business passions and like family. Like there were so many things, and to see how things maybe intersected in like different parts of my life, as well as just like from a professional experience or hobby standpoint. Like I think that gives you also just a wider net on how to kind of distill and maybe even make even more connections.
Totally.
And I find that to be kind of, helpful as like another launching pad to kind of seeing things just on a bigger stance.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to approach it because yeah, if you can find something that that exists in a meaningful way in your personal and professional life, that's yeah, that's a sweet spot, I think for sure. Cool. Okay, so let's take those ideas then and go to the next page. So this is the one with some blue boxes and some questions. Now the idea is so you've got your product, right? So the answer to these questions for that product or for the products that you're considering doesn't have to be yes, 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 yes across the board. So it doesn't have to fulfill all of these things, but you for anything that you're bringing into your store, you want to make sure that it fulfills at least one, if not two of these things, so that because these are basically going to tell you that there is a demand for the product that you're considering bringing in. So let's take again just a couple of minutes to go through, and you can do this for one product that you want to offer, or you can do this for a product that you're considering.
Hey, Angie, quick question. Like in these scenarios, would you recommend using this worksheet for every single product line that you are anticipating creating, or for a product category? Like how would you slice that? I'm curious. Oh, you're on mute, hon.
Thanks. Okay. So yeah, that's an awesome question. So I would say that as you're starting out, you might, so I think doing it at a category level is probably a good place to start. But if there are, um, let's see, if you don't offer a lot of product on your site, I would say do this for every single individual product that you have, only because those individual products are more meaningful, right? They make up a greater percentage of your offering. And your site is going to come across really curated if you only have if you have a limited number of products on there. And so if all of a sudden this rando product is listed on your site, customers are going to be like, what is going on? But if you offer a ton of products on your site, I think, doing this at the category level is totally fine, because it's just going to kind of, stuff itself in with everything else. So yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. So was anybody, I'm assuming not, but I'm curious if anybody was like, did one of their products show up as like a absolutely not in this, or a hell yes? No. Okay. All right. Well, I am being very conscious of the time, I guess. So I had this other exercise for us to do, but it's pretty down and dirty, right? So it's and a little work intense. But I want to show you the worksheet that we were going to go over with it, that we were going to start to fill in, because it's an awesome resource for you as you grow your business. So even though we won't practice using it together, you'll have it to use, because this is, I mean, I have used this at every single company I've worked for. I've used this. So I used to work at Target Corporation and their buying offices. This document was used, right? Like everything, every company that I've ever worked for, we have used something like this. And so this is how you ensure that your products are going to be profitable. So this, and you can find this. So in the same packet, just this profitable products worksheet, you can just click download worksheet here. And again, it'll ask you to make a copy and do that because that'll be yours forever. You can put your information in and it'll be, nobody else will be able to see it. So there are 2 tabs on this, in this document. So the first is calculate profit, and the second is calculate target cost. Now, as you're starting out, the calculate target cost might be the place where you want to hang out most. So what this does is you can put in, so any item that you're considering, you can put in the item description and then put in the retail that, so I think it's important to start here. So thinking about what you think people will pay for the product that you want to offer, or what you want to charge for it, right? Because we don't necessarily want to limit ourselves to what people will pay. So I think that's a really helpful place to start, especially when you're starting out in your business, because what you don't want to do is force retails on your customers because it will impact your sales. So most of the time, your costs from your suppliers are going to come back higher than you wanted them to, or your shipping costs are going to be higher than you wanted them to. That is most of the time where you are going to exist as an e-commerce retailer, is being a little bit bummed out that it wasn't cheaper than you thought it was. So what happens then, what I see constantly happen with e-retailers is that then they force the retail up rather than getting savvy about negotiating and getting savvy about how they're running their business. So they force retails to go higher, and their sales then are lower. And in some cases that works out okay, because if you're pulling in more revenue per item, sometimes it works out, but more often than not, I see the retail is pushed too high and people just aren't going to pay for it. So, okay, so you set your retail, then you can go to, well, I actually have a great tool that I'll put in here for you guys to use. So Parcel Monkey is a great place to go and put in and get shipping costs. So as an e-commerce retailer, you are going to want to be very aware of what the cost to ship the product from the supplier to you is. So if you're not drop shipping and if you're not doing digital products, you are going to have to get your product from the people that are making it to you, and then you're going to have to ship that product from you to the customer, and those are both costly. So you want to make sure that you are building those costs into your retail. So this worksheet allows you to do that. So once you go to parcelmonkey.com, put in your the package dimensions and the package weight, it'll spit out a cost for you to ship your product. And the one thing that I will say is that your inbound shipping costs, so the shipping costs from the supplier to you, should be lower than what it costs for you to send it from you to your customer. But you'll have to find that product first to figure that out. So once you get all of that set in, then you want to figure out what you want your average margin to be. So your average profit margin to be for your business. Now, I would recommend working with a 50% gross margin. And by gross, I mean factor in your product cost, your shipping costs, and your retail. So don't look at your marketing costs, your overhead costs, all of that kind of stuff, but do factor in your product costs. So 50% gross margin. Now, a lot of people rest in a place a lot lower than that, but you are going to be limited in your advertising spending, your marketing spending, your overhead costs. And it is, I think long term, you will be pretty unhappy with the profits that you're seeing from your business if you go much lower than 50%. Okay. So that's this sheet. So basically then in column D, once you put in your retail, your shipping costs, and then settle on the margin that you want to work with, in column D, you'll get it'll calculate for you what amount of money you should pay for that actual product. So if I want to sell plants on my, and I actually did this yesterday, it was real disappointing. But if I wanted to sell plants on my site, let's say that I thought I could charge $30 for a plant with a really cute little pot. My shipping costs on that plant were actually going to be like $20, right? Just to the customer from me. So if I want to charge $30 and just the cost to ship it to the customer is $20, that means before I've even paid for that plant, I'm only making $10, right? So that plant, I have to be able to buy that plant for less than $10 for me to make any money at all. So these are, again, you can use this to figure out what you are willing to pay, what you're able to pay for a product. Now on the other tab, so calculating profit, this basically does the same thing, but when you start talking to suppliers and things like that, you'll have a better idea of the unit cost already, and then you'll have your shipping costs, and you can put those in, and it'll calculate for you what your margin is and what your profits will be. So your profits per unit, and that profit calculation is taking your unit cost, adding your shipping costs, and then and subtracting those from the retail. Okay. I know that's like, I geek out on this stuff. This is like totally my zone of genius, but I know that most people do not feel the same way. Spreadsheets are like, ugh. But this is a super helpful tool. So hold on to this. And I'm sorry that we didn't, have a ton of time to walk through it. But like I said, as you start talking to suppliers, as you start, diving in a little bit more to your business, this will start to make sense, and you can just, pop stuff in here and quickly figure out how much money you're going to be making. Okay. Oh, let me look at Kristen's thing. So 50% of retail. Yeah. So, well, okay. This is a great question. So Kristen is asking, is it 50% of retail? So the profit margin that I was talking about, 50% of retail. Yes. So your profit margin calculation is you take the retail, you subtract your costs, all your costs, and we'll go with gross again. So not factoring in marketing costs and all of that, but so your retail minus your product costs and shipping costs. So you take that and then you divide that by the retail, and you should shoot for 50%. Well, okay, so you also have to multiply by 100 to get a percent, but you get the idea. So yes, that's what I would shoot for, 50%. Okay, so we are totally at time. So let me just give you one thing, because I know that we've gone through a lot of stuff. So the one question that I get a lot is, how long will this take? So how long will it take to build a business where you're making money, you've got customers? And I would say that typically it takes people about 6 to 12 months. And it takes people 6 to 12 months to, find their product, get their site built, get the products, get their products secured, all of that kind of stuff, and start marketing and finding customers. So at, between 6 to 12 months, you'll start to be getting your first orders. I don't know that you'll be at the rate of orders that you want, but then you'll have time to build that. So the one thing that I do want to offer you, though, is, because that's a lot, right? That's a lot of time. And what I've seen is a lot of people lose momentum in that, because you're most of the time it takes 6 to 12 months because you're working your full-time job and you're doing this like in the wee hours of the night with, glowing screen, somebody sleeping next to you quietly, like tapping away on your computer, right? So that's exhausting. So I think, I see a lot of people lose momentum. So they've kind of partially built their store, and then they never really hit live. So one thing, if you want to take the portion, building your platform, if you want to make that a little bit easier and do it in less than a day, so that you can focus on the marketing, finding your customers, and finding some really killer products. I do have a course that I mentioned at the beginning of our time together that that will walk you through that entire process step by step, so that you don't have to worry about doing all the research, testing everything out, all of that kind of stuff. And it also gives you resources. So some of the resources we use today are included in that, but it gives you resources that make your business easier to run from start to finish, right? So it helps with the initial setup, but it also helps run your business long term. So I do have a code here that you can use to get 50% off, for being a part of the second act. And I will say that the course is really reasonably priced to begin with. So it's only $197 full price. So you're paying less than $100 with that 50% off. And, I don't want you to get the idea that the low cost means that it is low on return. I intentionally priced it low because I see this as such an incredible way for women to create a fulfilling life. And I don't want there to be a cost barrier. So I do want it to be accessible so that you can start taking steps towards that dream. So, okay. So what questions do people have? Oh, second act women. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Barb, do you want to roll through your slides?
Yes, we want to thank you, Angie, for today. This was so well-rounded, and it gave us all the information we needed to fill our toolbox. If you have any questions for Angie, her web address is clutchbusinesses.com. And we are taking her class, Lupe and I are, as well as we've hired her because, again, we want to keep the money within the ecosystem, and we're going to show you what we're doing. We're right now not going to be worried yet about actual products. Instead, we are providing hard, tangible products. What we're doing is downloadables. And that's something that we highly recommend, that if you go into do all the homework and all the work that Angie's had you do, then go into Etsy and other places and see how to price, how to keep your price at the range that other people are pricing theirs at. And you'd be surprised at how much money can be generated on Etsy, on Shopify, within your own store, Amazon, whatever platform you decide to use, or multiple platforms. It is absolutely stunning how much people are able to make. This is a multiple billion-dollar industry. So after you do the work on this, we highly recommend this. This particular piece is a 27-page piece that really goes right into someone's planner. And it's a goal setting strategy, a playbook really that we created, of course, on Canva. And, those are things that you can do that the person, after they purchase it, can simply download it and they immediately have it. So we are excited about that. Lupe, do you want to talk a little bit about the Second Act Women, our private club, before we say goodbye?
Yeah, just in brief, for those ladies that enjoyed today's session and are looking to perhaps maybe get in on the inside track a little bit more and tap into some of the exclusive resources and programming that we offer our membership, check out secondactwomen.com/insider perks for all the details and perks that come with membership. It's only $99 right now, and it's just a great opportunity. We're at 180 members strong and always offering different ways place for you to grow and learn and connect both personally, professionally. And this is just a great opportunity to meet other women within our community in a more intimate space. So check it out. And if we can answer any questions, you know where to find us. I'm Lupe at bloomcopresents.com or Barbara at bloomcopresents.com. And thanks so much for joining us today.
Yes, we appreciate having you guys here today. So to end the session, you now have more than a few tools again for your biz box, whether you're a side gigger or you're like Janine, who's working at changing the narrative, and that's your full-time position in career. You now know the store model or have an opportunity to really define what your store model is going to be. You now have a clearer idea of what your product could be or products and services, the types of platforms. She mentioned Woo and so many others. And then ways to price your product, which is the most important thing besides knowing your why. So we are so excited to have had her here today. If you have any questions, as Lupe said, you can find us on any one of our social media platforms. And we are just so excited that you were able to join us today. And we want you to have a really wonderful day. So if you have any questions, contact Angie or any one of us. We appreciate having you here today, ladies.
Thanks, ladies.
Have a
That
good
was awesome.
one.
It was super fun.
Angie, you want to stay on for a moment?